If ever there were a truer monster in the world of darkness, look no further than beneath the city streets. Humanity may have built the foundations of civilization, but they have nested themselves into the very veins where every vulnerability can be exploited. There is no vampire clan more cursed outwardly than the Nosferatu. Without exception, every kindred sired by the Nosferatu has a physical disfiguration of some capacity. From large overgrown fangs jutting from their jaws, having insect-like borers in their skins, balding being the most common features. But beyond that, their visage is undeniably horrifying. Because of this, many Nosferatu have decided to shelter themselves from civilization, and to the civilized kindred, this suits them just fine, for the Nosferatu served as a perfect reflection of what they really were beneath the surface, and a reminder of what their beast could make them. Their very faces would knowingly break the masquerade, making them adapt to becoming masters of stealth. Combine this with the powers of obfuscation, they become invisible, or even ignorable. Think of it. How many times have you felt that you were being watched? You feel a presence in the corner of your room, but no matter how hard you try, you can't bring yourself to look that way. The embrace of a Nosferatu isn't just a painful experience, but there contains a risk that the experience would be lethal. This is precisely why the Nosferatu prefer two types of people to consider for the embrace: the broken and the privileged. The broken are people who are downtrodden, the helpless, the very dregs of society. These can include people who are facing crushing poverty, homelessness, mental illnesses, emotional abuse, drifters who have no hope to establish themselves in society, even people who are so socially isolated that their absence would be disregarded. On the other extreme of the prey spectrum are the privileged. People who have had it good their entire lives, never having to experience the scarcity of food or money, and are beautiful to the point of envy by their peers. And it helps the Nosferatu feel even more obliged to take them on when they have the attitude of arrogance and entitlement. And these people who survive the embrace end up living a miserable existence within the clan, and are given the derogatory nickname of Cleopatra, a reminder to all that they were specifically embraced for their extraordinary beauty. Apart from being the most unseen, the Nosferatu also became incredibly tech-savvy out of most of the vampire clans as seen through the ages. They had to rely heavily on their powers to remain unseen to gather information. They are reputable for information gathering. As such, it is more of a requirement for them to have this advantage over most clans. Take the Ventrue clan, who have the power to command others to their wills and bend their knees, or Clan Brujah, who have the raw strength to break armies. But information is power uncontested, which is why, despite some Nosferatu breaking from the Camarilla to join the Sabbat or the Anarchs, as a clan they remain cordial with one another, with the right exchange. Given that they prefer to have lairs where humans are less likely to stumble upon it, this would mean that besides themselves, they would also need to rely on their powers to defend their homes if it were ever invaded. And often this leads to the practice of ghouling animals, hence why it is most common to see Nosferatu consorting with rats. That and their discipline in animalism, a vampiric power that grants them the ability to command and even speak to the animals, and even giving them an edge to controlling their beast. But even without animalism, the Nosferatu are still dangerous. Their discipline and potence. Their bodies may look skinny and deformed physically, so fighting them might seem simple at best, but potence gives a vampire unnatural superhuman strength, like the ability to bend steel. And while this power is usually reserved when fighting other vampires, it would be generously called overkill against humans. With that in mind, a kindred who were unlucky enough to get on Nosferatu's bad side would wonder, why don't they just attack me outright? They would make great assassins, bypassing my securities, getting past my ghouls, and just kill me right then and there. A younger and immature Nosferatu might just take you up on that. But an older and more mature Nosferatu would actually find it more of a delightful challenge to take time, energy, and patience to learn more about the offending kindred, as after all, it would be more satisfying to watch a careful deck of cards fall when all the lies have been spread out bare, their secrets and vulnerabilities exposed, and watching the things that they love are crumbled beneath them. And when you're part of the Camarilla, if all of your vulnerabilities has been exposed and you have been found wanting, it's safe to conclude that you have become a liability. When a new kindred has entered their new life after an embrace, they are able to establish themselves independently most of the time. However, that is not the case for the Nosferatu. To protect the masquerade, and perhaps to save face on their own terms, they are acutely aware that they share the same fate if one of their own were to make too much noise, which is why the Nosferatu are more amenable to assisting new fledglings in the area, helping them navigate the sewers, train and guide them to adapt to their new way of life. They will even introduce a fledgling into a Nosferatu brood if need be. This Nosferatu clan actually emphasizes more clan unity than the rest because of their condition. Now, a Nosferatu brood are typically organized in a central hub, like in the sewers, or a tunnel network that function like an underground city. As such, they are structured simply with the eldest Nosferatu leading, setting policies and guiding the rest. In spite of having a city with rats to feed for their need for blood and jerry-rigging power and other amenities to help them funnel information through the net, the Nosferatu would prefer not to leave the sewers. But when the Camarilla summons the clan to service, they at least send their most friendliest Nosferatu. Not all books can be judged by their covers, as the saying goes, but make no mistake, there are exceptions to every rule. If one were to ask, most of the vampire clans aren't so cursed. Why the Nosferatu? Why aren't we all freaks? If I were to ask a historian, let's say a Whitewolf, he might say that it stems from a long-forgotten era. All vampire clans stem from an original progenitor, worshippers of Cain, if you must. And for the Nosferatu, their name was Absimiliard. It was said that he was a particularly powerful and evil man. He was also notoriously vain and a skilled hunter, and that drew the attention of his sire. It was said that his sire was embraced by Cain, and it was said that she did not want Cain, but she had found Absimiliard wanting, and wanted him personally. And so she hunted Absimiliard and embraced him, but during the embrace there was a struggle, and during this struggle Absimiliard was scarred, a small one. This small, inconsequential little scar did not bother his sire, but to Absimiliard this was a scar large enough to enrage him. It was said, often by hearsay, that this little imperfection had drove him to the point of insanity. This was why he was considered the most dangerous, as he led his fellow kindred to slaughter the second generation that was embraced by Cain. That also sparked the rise of the Antediluvians, the progenitor of most modern-day vampire clans. Like Olympians overthrowing the Titans, this also presented a new era where a shift in power was presented. But for Absimiliard, what Absimiliard did was kill the wife of Cain. It's in dispute whether he directly killed her himself or this was just the result of the slaughter of the second generation. But Cain personally punished Absimiliard for his transgression, for taking someone he loved. Cain, the first father of all vampires, commanded the blood of Absimiliard's once beautiful body to form into a hideous husk of what it once was. No longer was there a beautiful man with just a simple scar. He was hideous, utterly repulsive. And to add insult to injury, this was carried into every vampire that was ever sired by Absimiliard. His bloodline would be changed forever with this curse. It is not written what happened afterwards, but there were plenty of theories that said that he did not take this well. And it said that under his sheer insanity, he believed that he can gain Cain's forgiveness by presenting him with the bodies of his cursed children. He actively hunted down his children and his children's children, all who carry the mark of the Nosferatu bloodline. And thankfully, this antediluvian fell into torpor before he could succeed in his mad hunt. With such a grand retelling, I leave you now with words from a Nosferatu from the Book of Nod. You are the children of shadow. You are the sons and daughters of darkness. Seek the dark places. Make it your own. Feed on the wicked. Feed on the sinful. Feed on the ugly souls. For such is our diet, such is our Father's wish, our preordained meal. My childer, look not at your visage to curse me, for I know the beauty that lies within, and no greater beauty will there ever be.